So for example 9, we're going to solve a trigonometric equation using identities. So now I have sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta equals 3. Well, I know that sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta is 1. So maybe we're going to substitute in for sine squared theta. So I have sine squared theta equals 1 minus cosine squared theta. So I have 1 minus cosine squared theta plus cosine of theta equals 3. And let's try and get this whole equation set equal to 0. So I've got negative cosine squared theta plus cosine of theta. I've got 1 minus 3 from both sides. That gives me a negative 2 equals 0. But I have a negative leading coefficient, so I want to pull that out. So I have negative cosine squared theta plus cosine of theta, sorry, minus cosine of theta. Now it's a minus cosine of theta plus 2 equals 0. So let's see if I can factor this. Think about if I had x squared minus x plus 2 equals 0. Are there any factors of 2 that add up to negative 1? No, so this can't be factored using our standard method, which means it's going to have zeros that are irrational or complex. So let's take a look at the graph of this in Desmos. Ah, we went there. Yes, I was watching Star Trek. Of course I was. So I now can type in this equation and we'll take a look at its graph. So I have cosine squared of, I'm going to use x instead of theta because I'm not sure the type of theta. So here we have our cosine squared graph minus cosine of x. And then when I add 2, you can see this graph is shifted up. So nowhere does my graph cross the x-axis, nowhere would it equal 0, nowhere would I have a solution. No solutions whatsoever. So let's go back to our PowerPoint and work on our next example. So I have 5 sine of x plus x equals 3. So we're going to solve this by moving it into Desmos. The first thing I'm going to do though is set equal to 0. So now I have 5 sine of x plus x minus 3 equals 0. And I want to find all the solutions, and that's where our graph crosses the x-axis. So let's go back to our graphing calculator. So I have 5 sine of x. So here we have our sine graph, right? And it's been, the amplitude has grown 5 times. And then I'm going to go ahead and add x to it. And then I'm going to go ahead and subtract 3. So where this graph crosses the x-axis should be our x values. So our x values are when x is 5.52, if you want to round, when x is 3.2, and when x is 5.7. Those are our 3 values, our 3 possible answers for this equation.